Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 4, Episode 1. It's called The Best of Both Worlds, Part 2. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. So, yeah, start of a new season, it's always kind of a big event, and this marks a trend that will stick with the rest of the show, because I did look ahead just to the titles. Every season, ending and beginning, obviously with the exception of the end of Season 7, they're all two-parters now. Split over the seasons. So they like this formula. They like this, make them wait for the conclusion.
I guess I can only assume it had a positive reaction on the viewing figures.
Yeah, I'd call it playing chicken with the renewal process, but
depends how much they knew by the time they were right at the episode of making each call.
They didn't for this one. But I mean,
maybe in future, because obviously they presumably knew for 7 in that case, because they didn't try.
Oh, sure, yeah, they knew that was the ending, yeah. So, but hey, so obviously we ended with the big reveal of Picard as the cutest of Borg, and Riker ordering to fire, and that's where we pick up. Obviously, there's a little previously on at the start of the episode. Actually, before we go at the end, I've got some comments to be made on some trailers that were on my Blu-ray for other things. I'll say that to the end, though. I don't want to derail this.
Some dated trailers, okay.
Just to start with. They're not actually that dated. They're relevant to Star Trek, but anyway, so firing does nothing. Riker makes this big call to fire, despite the fact that it will probably kill Picard, and it doesn't work. And immediately they say, wait, that's not just adapting. Like, they couldn't have predicted that it was going. And then immediately, Picard, or Locutus, I should say, make it clear that, no, we've absorbed all of the memories of Picard. Everything that he knows or was planning or was a party to, we now have that information. So, so not only have they just lost Picard, not only is that depressing and, a really bad omen for the way things are going, it's going to go with the rest of the fleet. On top of that, the enemy now has all the strategic and even just personal knowledge of all the people in the ship.
Yeah,
that Picard had. Just
to be a little bit creepy and to prove the point, he makes a point of calling him number 1 at the end of this.
Yeah, I love this. This was I love this episode. This is a really good episode. I do think the first half is stronger than the second half.
I agree. I think overall, I like part 1 more. I think it had more surprising elements to it.
Sure.
This was a little bit safer in what it did, I think, but it was still really good.
I think this half's more exciting, bizarrely, though, because I think because of all the actual, the actual threat of, because the Borg are on their way to Earth, that's kind of, and by the time we get to the end of the episode, they're in the solar system, they're passing Saturn, they're on their way to Earth, like, they're getting very, relatively speaking, they're getting very close. I mean, it's not close for us right now, and how far we can travel, but
how fast they travel, it's like a matter of minutes.
Yeah, but for Star Trek, this is relatively close to Earth, and I think it was, all of the stuff in the first half, especially with Riker, because basically the Borg just piss off because they're going to the Earth and they don't care. They're just like, we're not even going to, entertain this Enterprise. We're just going to leave because it's time to go. And Riker informs the Admiral. And again, so I love the moment where Picard, or Locutus, calls him number 1. I thought that was a fantastic little moment. Like, I was sort of like smirking with an evil grin on my face as he did it. And then this scene here, where there's all the main officers are in the room and they're talking to the Admiral over the comms. There's a great moment here where Shelby, who of course was the go-getting sort of new recruit who was kind of gunning for Riker's job last in the first part, and she says, "Oh, and it's even tougher now because they have the assistance of Picard." And he doesn't grill her or make it obvious that he's grilling her immediately. He starts telling the story of how he met Picard. He talks about, this young cadet who broke all these records of Starfleet, and I made a point of getting to know him, and because he was this this young, all these future ahead of him. He was this aspirational kid who was going to do all this, and he gets to the end of the story and just says, Jean-Luc Picard would never assist, and all this story was all building up to making it very clear. You cannot phrase it like that. You are not allowed to say that Picard is doing this willingly or imply that in any way. So
yeah, as he puts it, he is now officially a casualty of war.
Yeah, but I kind of loved that, and not just because, obviously she's kind of a a very she's not poking at Riker a lot in the first
She's
part.
a bit blunt.
Yeah, she's kind of pushing buttons a lot intentionally, and this wasn't an intentional button push. Admittedly, I think this was just a complete slip of her, the way she phrased it.
Yeah, I don't think it's even a slip, so to speak, because she's not wrong, and it's not intentionally aggravating, like you say. It's more just everyone else takes umbrage with it.
Yeah. So I kind of like the build up, and then kind of the point he was actually making. And it was like, no, we're not going to disrespect him like that. And, he promotes Riker to captain. And, we even see Captain, well, I guess I'm right technically, but we see Riker later in the episode. He's got the extra, the pin on his collar. Which over the course of the season, I've been noticing sort of what each rank has there. Just because, we see it a lot. Because he had the 3, now he's got the 4. Data and Worf have the 2.5. So I've been noticing the
get you taking notes.
Yeah. So the 2.5, or the 2 and unfilled, if you want to phrase it that way. That's Lieutenant Commander. So learning.
Very good.
Wesley's only got 1 though. I think he may even just have a unfilled 1 actually. Maybe it's a full 1. I don't know, but it's definitely just 1. The little pipsqueak. But there's so many great moments in this first half of the episode. I love so Riker sort of gives everyone their orders, blah blah, and then he goes down to see Shelby at one point in engineering. He's talking to Geordi, and she's kind of basically says, "Hey, I should probably be your first officer now." It's kind of important. And to be fair to Riker, he was kind of, even before that, saying, "Look, you keep me on my toes, but that's probably a good thing given the current predicament." And they kind of debate over that she should be the job. And we even have a scene with him later in the ready room with everyone else where he says, look, I know, Worf, you might be the first in line for this technically, but given the current crisis, it's better to have everyone where they're used to being and doing their jobs well.
I think he has Worf and Data as equal, and it's like, look, it should be one of you by rights. But like, war footing, we need everyone in peak performance, and I can't be putting someone new in one of your jobs.
Yeah, can't be promoting Wesley to Data's job. The whole thing will just crumble within minutes if we do that. So I liked all this stuff, but my favourite moment is when he goes into the captain's ready room for the first time, and he just looks at the chair, and then he eventually, he says, what would you do? He starts talking to the chair. And that's when Guinan kind of comes in, and clearly knowing what he's just done, even though she's not in the room, she's clearly knows, given what the advice she's about to give him, about letting Picard go, and not just because in this case everything Picard knew the Borg now know, so they kind of have to do things in a way that Picard wouldn't.
More just he needs to have confidence in himself and his calls if they want any chance of surviving. Yeah,
because she says that people in 10 Forward are convinced that they're dying the next day. And she just basically says, predestination. If you believe you're dying the next day, you will somehow make it happen because you believe it's going to. And you have to believe you're going to get out of this. You have to believe in this. And it even says that maybe you can save Picard. Maybe, by letting him go, you can actually save him. And even though I don't necessarily think she means that literally, in the sense that she's actually saying you can literally get Picard back and save him.
I think she more means you can save his memory. Yeah. Not let it be desecrated by him being the face of this. This bombardment and more. No, you can let him be the casualty of war rather than a willing participant, seemingly.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the midst of all this we see Picard getting more upgrades because he's not fully transformed yet. He's still got too much regular skin showing because they sort of grey him up a little bit and give him some more bits and pieces.
New tech.
We see a tear going down. He's implying that the real Picard is still in there and is aware of what's happening to him. In some capacity. No control,
which is a great moment again.
Yeah, really dark. And then the next big moment I love is just them finding the graveyard of the ships that the Borg have went through. Because at one point the Admiral sends him a call saying we're retreating because things aren't going well, but it kind of cuts him off before he's able to finish his statement. And they go to this graveyard of ships, and even including the one that Riker was offered the captaincy of. So it's kind of this.
Yeah, there was 3 ships there that are all just floating. Everyone's looking horrified.
Yeah. So I think what I love about this part of the two-parter is just the monumental ramifications of how serious and dangerous the Borg are and how close it comes to they almost got to Earth and assimilated everyone. They very nearly got there. In one try. So I love all that. I love the horror in their faces as they're witnessing all this. And then kind of the capper to the first half as I'm sort of splitting it in two here. It's actually more like 2/3 to be honest through the episode. Is the plan that ultimately gets Picard back, where they separate the ship into 2 sections, Remember in the first episode where Riker did it manually, and it was this big moment for like 5 minutes, listening to him going, right, go 2 degrees this way and 4 degrees that way. It was this big moment.
Yeah, but that doesn't bother me. This is the sort of thing. What you show it once and show, okay, this is cool, and then you don't need to show it every single time.
I'm not complaining. I'm not bothered by this. I'm just pointing out that there's such a big difference. And although, to contradict what you just said there, a slight touch. It's not like he's going to do it again and we cut away. He says, Wesley, separate the sections.
Well, he obviously trusts Wesley to do it.
Well,
I don't know why, but
yeah, they're going to lose the war if that's the case. Stop trusting Wesley to do things. But no. So it's all about Worf and Data sneaking onto the, because they can't beam onto the Borg cube. There's like a sort of field around it they can't beam through. So they have them in a shuttle go through the field, and they've got a lot of distractions going across. Shelby's in the saucer section doing some distractions with antimatter dispersals, blah, 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 tech talk. And they go through the field, they beam in, they kidnap Locutus, aka Picard, and beam him back. All very entertaining and intense, and they establish why they can start blasting the Borg now. Geordi's designed a thing for the phasers where it automatically changes frequencies after every single shot, and I'm like, hey, that's pretty smart. That makes sense.
That is smart. I mean, it's still a finite resource that will run out of frequencies that they can use eventually.
Sure. Yeah.
But it saves having to, okay, last time we preloaded 3 different phases with 3 settings, and this is all we've got. Whereas now it's like, no, we can keep cycling through them.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to be seeing the Borg often enough that we're ever going to realistically have run out of the frequencies, right? Like, we can use this again, at least a few episodes worth before we're even concerned about that. So that's really good. Yeah, they get Picard back, and for me, like, the back half is still good. This back chunk is still fine and full of nice little moments, but it's not quite the gut punching and the awe and spectacle of everything happening in that first half, and all those Riker beats of him becoming captain. And when he tries to make the speech, he says, if Picard was here, he'd give a Picard speech, and I know we all want to hear it. Hell, I need to hear it right now, but I don't have it because I ain't Picard.
It's nice seeing him be kind of honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to bravado the situation. Is I'm not gonna bullshit you. I don't really know what I'm doing either, but we got to do the best we can.
Yeah, and so ultimately Data decides to jack into Locutus to try and figure out, like, if he can get some, because Riker's idea is that if the Borg know everything Picard knows now, then does Picard happen to know how they can fight the Borg? There's
a logic to it, and also the fact that if they can shut down this connection from the internal, hive mind section stuff, the physical implants themselves will be quite easy to just remove, and get him back to more or less normal.
And there's a lot of risk taking here because Crusher's like, I really want to do several hours more work, making sure he's going to be okay if we do this. But Riker's, no, we don't have the time. We have to just do it. And likewise, like, they don't know if they're going to kill Picard when they make the choice to destroy the cube, because ultimately shutting down the weapons and stuff doesn't work. Data can't do any of that. But Picard,
he can't do shields, can't do weapons, can't do power. All this stuff, it's too heavily defended.
But Picard kind of essentially gets a message through. Just one word. He gets the word sleep through. He sort of he touches Data with his hand and says sleep. And Crusher kind of and tries there to sort of confirm that that's really Picard speaking and not the Borg.
Yeah.
And but Data figures out, no, he's not saying that he wants to sleep. He's saying that we can make them sleep. The idea being that particular subroutine isn't as well guarded because it's not considered like you get why weapons and shields are like heavily like firewalled, and no one can just jack into that and start messing with it.
Whereas sleep feels lower priority.
Yeah.
And even it goes to show that even the Borg, their resources aren't limitless. There are limits to even their firewall technology essentially, and they have to prioritize the most important things first.
Yeah, so he just puts them on charge, basically, so the ship just kind of shuts down, and then they're able to create a feedback loop, which ultimately blows it up. But that's the thing, is what I was saying, is that there's this kind of risk where, like, okay, we have to do this, and Crusher makes it clear, we have, and Data, I think, as well, like, we have no idea what this will do to Picard if we have that cube blow up. Though it could kill him, he could get, like, a feedback loop himself that'll just take him out.
But it's a risk they have to take, ultimately.
Yeah, and obviously it doesn't. Obviously Picard is kind of him again, and It's a solid moment, and I actually do really like the ending, the actual final, because obviously Riker says he's not leaving. He wants to be, first officer here. That's his choice. It's not Picard's choice to make. It's not Shelby's choice to make. It's his choice, and he's making it.
Yeah, and also there are less ships being offered with captaincies right
Sure,
now.
yeah,
They just lost a bunch.
Yeah, Shelby leaves to go and lead rebuilding the fleet kind of campaign or whatever.
Yeah.
And I also like the idea that, and it's something I think we said in the first part, is that Riker here might feel the need to be here for Picard more now than he was before, because Picard's, recovering from this.
I think it really goes to show that in the final moments with Picard.
Yeah, this is the final beat I love, is that, he feels like he's talking normal. He still got some metal parts on his face, but it's not everything.
A little bit of a faceplate, but it's kind of skin tone.
Yeah, and he says whatever he's saying to everyone, and they all kind of leave. This is the scene where Riker's saying that he's going to stay. And he goes to take a drink of his Earl Grey tea, which we know he loves, and he doesn't. He puts it down, and he walks over to the window and just kind of contemplates. And clearly this has had an effect on him. And it is someone who has seen season 1 of Picard, which is still him kind of like having like nightmares about being a Borg. Like, clearly this is something that is.
That makes sense that he's a changed character from this point on. Honestly, that moment where he picks up the glass and then just hesitates. That's honestly some of his best acting so far.
Oh, sure.
In the show. It's so good.
It's funny because obviously this episode has a lot less Patrick Stewart, or at least when he is there, he's playing this, monotonous robot style.
He's doing exactly what he's got to do for the story.
So this is the Riker show. This is everyone else doing their thing. So yeah. It's fascinating to see. But no, it's really good. I don't mean to say that the last 10-15 minutes are bad or poor. They're by no means. But ultimately it just becomes about solving the thing in a kind of, a fine way, but not necessarily as exciting as those first 25-30 minutes of the episode are, which I think are really, really strong.
Oh, they are really strong. I think the main reason that I still prefer part 1 overall is that rivalry that we've got between Shelby and Riker, which I think is so much fun and was the highlight of the surprise highlight of that first half for us.
Yeah.
And that's kind of by necessity gone here, because that would be very inappropriate in this situation.
Yeah, but I think, as a true two-parter, this pays off, and which is funny because they didn't know what they were going to do for this when they wrote the first part, but it really does pay off in all of those threads, because seeing Riker have to take the role of captain, even if it is just for this episode, it pays off in a lot of the things that story was poking at, like seeing him having to take this and acknowledge that he was a lot more like Shelby when he started, and kind of accepting those things. Like all that stuff is really satisfying, and it really feels like it's the conclusion to a two-parter, not just because it resolves the cliffhanger and gets Picard back to normal. All of the arcs that Riker goes through is also completely two-parter. So,
oh yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I can't really say enough nice things about that side of things. So yeah, and obviously I have fun with the Borg and seeing the drones walking around the Borg cube set and all that. And it's interesting because obviously we're going to see the Borg again at some point, like exactly how we learn about how it works with multiple cubes. Like, are the cubes connected in any way, shape, or form? Do they have to sort of reconvene in order to share data once they're
right now, just based off of everything we've seen so far, given that obviously, I've not seen anything really past this point in the timeline. I would assume that they aren't quite connected in the same way, otherwise the feedback loop might have affected other ships as well.
Also, I
wonder if they have to physically kind of send data to each other.
I would also suspect that Picard wouldn't be severed from the Borg as easily if there was a direct link at all times between every other cube.
Yeah.
Then surely he would still. I mean, maybe they could still disconnect him another way later, but it wouldn't have just worked like that. Where the cube's gone, so now he's.
Yeah. So it feels like the cubes are, at least to me right now, they're independent. So they're all obviously quote unquote one entity. Inside each cube, they're all one hive mind, but the different cubes are essentially different entities. So each cube is one being, so to speak.
If I remember correctly, I think that's something that First Contact, the movie. I don't know if that's a little bit it first comes up. It may be in the show first before then, but I feel like there's like a sort of head of the whole like thing, as if you will, like a let's say
like
mothership,
base,
but yeah,
mothership,
like
yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. So no, so yeah, cool. So some Borg mythology stuff. I mean, there was less new mythology in this specifically, and it was more about just like again really selling the threat of them and how close they got to just winning this time.
Without that much difficulty on their part, right up until the end.
No, and let's face it, the what they do to, like, what our characters do to win is not a trick they can really pull again.
No.
So, and I appreciate that. I appreciate, because sometimes, like, in TV shows and movies that go on for like a series, sometimes they'll come up with a solution to something that afterwards you go, why don't they just always use this again? Because this thing it was a perfect idea. So
yeah, I mean, you could argue, oh, they could always just steal someone from the ship and do it again. But I assume that maybe they learn from this mistake. And
well, basically the mistake, if nothing else, the one mistake that the Borg, assuming that they have the knowledge of what happened here on this cube, because I'm not sure if the rest of them would.
I'm kind of assuming there's like a black box style that's transmitted back.
Yeah, but assuming they know what happened, the one mistake they kind of made that they won't make again is that when they do kidnap Picard, the Borg don't bother to even try to get him back. They decide that it's not worth it, and they can just have him be there as a mouthpiece. I think if this was to happen again, they'd immediately get him back at all costs, because they now realise there's a threat by having him be over there. At the very least, that would be something they would try and avoid. If not, on top of that, add more security protocols and
the usual
things. Yeah, all the other stuff they could be doing, but because that was kind of the mistake. Because I even thought that in the episode, I was like, them just letting him be here feels like the one real mistake they've made as an entity.
Yeah, it is. I mean, even something as simple as having two cubes attack at the same time. Sure, you can shut down one of them, but what are you going to do about the other one?
Yeah, and as much as I'm saying it's a mistake they've made, it doesn't feel cheap, because the Borg have been shown to rightly be arrogant, or, I mean, I guess not even the word, it's not like they feel that way, but you know what I mean, like, they rightly just don't care. Like, back when they were first introduced and they were beaming out of the ship, and like one get stunned or killed with the
send
blaster,
the next one in.
Send in the next one. They don't care. They just just keep coming, and the idea of them just like saying, well, he's not important, it's not a priority, continue with the thing. There's no threat to us. It does feel natural for the Borg to think that way. So it doesn't feel cheap that they've made this mistake. But again, if they make it again, that's a problem, because they should have learned from this. But
I agree.
So no, Best of Both Worlds Part 2 is really great. It's obviously starting off on a strong footing, and obviously, I mean, as we started Next Generation, the whole time it was like, okay, season 1 and 2, a lot of rough patches, a couple of gems, but not a lot. It's season 3 where it gets good, and I think I definitely agree with that. But I don't ever hear anyone talk about it specifically after that. It's just, no, it gets good at season 3, and from the sounds of it, it mostly just stays that way. I think I've heard
maintains more or less consistently. That's what I've heard.
I've heard season 7 has a bit of a dip where it's maybe less consistently good, but there's still a couple of biggies.
But it's not as bad as 1 and 2, I assume.
I would assume so. Yeah, I would assume so. But 3 through 5 or 3 through 6, I think, are might be the kind of.
I mean, that's 3 or 4 really good seasons overall.
Yeah. And we're getting in there now. We're in the middle season, and I was thinking after I watched this that I'm actually going to have to check, in the relative near future when Deep Space Nine starts, because once we get to that point where they're overlapping, we're going to bounce between them. We're not going to just finish this and then start Deep Space Nine. We're going to try and do it in the order they were aired, and then of course again with Voyager when that kicks in and so on.
When is that? Do you know roughly?
Deep Space Nine?
Yeah.
I don't think it's until at least season 5, maybe even 6. So okay. I think we're good for this season still. I'm sure someone in the comments will just tell us now. I mean, I can look it up, but
why bother? Someone will do it for you.
But someone will tell us. Now that we've brought it up, someone will tell us.
Yeah.
So just before we get to the next time on and blah blah blah, so I'm watching on the Blu-ray, right, and I put in, and there's like a 10-minute trailer reel on the first disc of season 4, and this is the first time I've started a season on the Blu-ray, because I switched over to the Blu-rays early to mid season 3, and so the first thing played was a trailer for season 5 on Blu-ray, and I watched a little bit of it, but then it started getting specific with episodes. I thought, no, I'm going to skip. This is spoiler territory. I don't want this. And then it was a trailer for season 3 on Blu-ray, And I thought, okay, I'll watch this trailer just to see what they show. And they flat out show the final scene of the finale. Say, who could forget the cliffhanger, season 3? And I'm
In
like,
their defense, you're watching a season 4 Blu-ray, so it's necessary context anyway.
I have a problem with that because I highly doubt this trailer was created solely for the season 4 Blu-ray.
Almost certainly not.
Yes.
I think that goes to show you that the target audience for these Blu-rays are not people watching it for the first time. This is classic fans.
No, that's true. Although one of the things that was in the season 5 Blu-ray trailer, which made me laugh, is that it started off with like, you know, the return of the Borg, which maybe implies that the Borg aren't really here for the rest of season 4. But that maybe
I'm
I'd take
okay with that.
Yeah, which is fine. Yeah, I'm cool with them being spread out. And then it was the return of Spock, right? Which, okay, and I knew Spock was eventually going to show up. I'd heard that before, so no big deal. And then the third thing it says, and the return of, and the voice even did this is because it knew it was a comedy beat, and the return of Wesley.
I'm a little disappointed it wasn't Tasha Yar again.
So, now you say that, I'm pretty sure I saw that actress in this trailer, but
okay,
but not as Tasha Yar. Notably, I don't want to read too much into it, but
we're gonna do the whole when she traveled back in time. She had a
she had
a granddaughter that happens to look exactly like you.
I don't want people to tell us in the comments because just let us discover this, right?
Yeah, we'll get there.
Let us just feast on this weird like foreshadowing I've got from this trailer. But I think she was Romulan.
Oh, okay.
I think it was her.
Do you know what? That actually sounds kind of familiar to me.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Don't tell us. We'll find out when we get there. But it was just a weird, like, what the hell's going on moment. But then it started saying, remember, this episode, I was like, okay, I'm skipping now. I don't want to see any episode-specific spoilers. And, right? Then after the season 2 Star Trek thing, there was a trailer for a standalone Best of Both Worlds Blu-ray. There's just the 2 episodes, which I'm like, okay, this is. I always feel weird about them releasing stuff like that.
Milking it a bit.
Yeah. And then the final trailer, my favourite of the bunch, was a trailer for the second season of Star Trek Enterprise on Blu-ray, which I let play because I figured, well, I'm going to forget all this by the time we get to season 2 of Enterprise. That's so far away. Because that was originally produced right at the start of the HD era, it existed in HD, so they didn't have to remaster it like they did. And it looks that way. It looks at something from that time period where, okay, this was the early days of HD, so it looks kind of ropey by current HD standards, but you can tell it's good enough to just, fling it in the Blu-ray and it'll be better than the DVD and whatever else.
Yeah.
But so you guys got Bakula, and it's like, remember this? There's actually one of the episodes it brings up is a callback to an episode we've already seen of Next Gen. Remember the episode where there was the second Picard in the shuttle that they sort of jettisoned?
Yeah.
Right? They find that this shuttle goes back in time, and they find like a skeleton of Picard in this shuttle, and I started laughing. I'm like, holy shit! I'm going to get that reference when we get there.
You can pull out your Captain America gif.
There was also something that made me roll my eyes a little bit because it was kind of like, okay, there's going to be a lot of nostalgia plays in this show. They're going to be doing a lot of little nostalgia things, but we'll see. And it did at the end of the trailer. The song did play the theme song because I don't know
the infamous theme song.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with this or if anyone watching isn't, but unlike all the Star Trek shows up until that point, instead of having like a very memorable orchestral theme that it plays at the start for the opening titles, they've got a sort of pop rock song that plays
like a song.
Yeah. I only know the first lyric, mainly because Tara's yelled it at me like 10 times, and it's been a long road is the first line of the song. It's been a long road. I don't know what the tune is, but it's it's just imagine some like sort of constipated like folk singer saying it's been a long road, like that's the start of the song.
I've heard the song. We did it. In university, our lecturer did it as a joke because we were looking at all of the Trek themes for a lecture once and comparing them, and they just for a joke was like, and now we're gonna do this one. And it was funny. It
was on the UPN. I can't wait to see what a completely from start to finish UPN show feels like.
It'll be unique.
Because UPN, if those didn't know it, that UPN's what the WB merged with to create the CW, which is really funny because that television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer moved from the WB to the UPN for its final 2 seasons, and then the 2 networks merged. So I don't know what's going on there.
I guess it just shows that a lot of their content had a strong audience overlap.
Did Veronica Mars start on UPN and then it became CW? I can't remember. Maybe that was WB first. I mean, it feels like a WB-esque show, but
yeah, I don't remember.
There was a couple of things that kind of started, you know, because obviously Smallville was WB and then it merged and it was a CW show afterwards. But yeah. Anyway, I don't know what my point was of that, but just that was just...
I don't know, but what do we got next time?
Yeah, so what do we have next time? Episode 2 of Season 4, the title of which is Family, short and to the point. Here's the description. After defeating the Borg, the crew of the Enterprise experiences shore leave in various ways. I like that this is a follow-up. Like, they're actually saying, hey, that was a big deal. We're calming down.
We're taking some time off.
Yeah. Captain Picard's return to his family's vineyard in France has some extraordinary repercussions. We're doing Picard. Do you know what? I kind of like that we're getting personal with him, like, and he's going back to his roots after this Borg thing. Actually, this is a perfect, at least in theory. I mean, maybe the episode's terrible, but in theory, this is what they should do with him. It's him like try to like sort of like connect to his family and his life and his humanity.
That makes sense, and I assume this is the same vineyard that was in all the trailers for Picard.
I would assume so. I mean, I'll see if I recognize it when we get there, but yeah. Or at least it's supposed to be the same one. It probably looks vastly
different. It might not end up being the same
set,
but I'm sure it's supposed to be the same place.
Yeah, probably. So that's cool. It's cool to be getting to some of this stuff though. We're doing more of this character stuff that clearly stuck around as time went on.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
In the world.
Yeah, it's funny that we're doing this now in season 4. You think, oh, maybe that'd have come up in the first 3 seasons, but didn't.
Yeah.
So
who cares?
But no, it's nice to see them expand. It's nice to see them expand the scope a little bit. And now that we really know these characters and care about them, sort of expand inward a little bit and see things.
It is interesting that in this case, expansion actually means focusing in and being more personal instead of getting bigger in the traditional sense.
Yeah. So that's next time. So yes, this has been our discussion of Best of Both Worlds Part 2. You can let us know what you think in the comments. Please do a like. Liking is very important on YouTube. If you like this us reviewing Star Trek and you want to keep coming, liking and commenting down there is a very easy way to show that you want it to keep coming. It helps us out. More people find us because of it. So please do. It's free and you can just click and it does the thing, or tap even if you're on a touch device, whatever it may be. If you want to support us financially though and give us some monies so we can keep the content coming, you can go over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and support us from as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses for your trouble. Otherwise, though, get us on Twitter at mail_fuzz for channel updates. But that is us, so thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek, guys. And when it comes to the ladies, Wesley Crusher is in complete control.